Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Sherry Stoka and I'm owner of Way Less MD. Today I'm going to be presenting on detox. Do you need to detox to lose weight? So let's find out. So the objectives of this presentation is to learn about our body's ability to detox, learn more about what we are exposed to and how does it actually leave the body. We're going to discuss how toxicity causes disease and weight loss resistance, how you can assess or how you know if you're full of toxins and really what you can do. And this is such an incredibly important topic because nobody is thinking about this, and we really need to start digging more into this given our modern world that we live in. And obviously you're going to learn more about those specific pieces, but all right, let's move on. So when we're working with people, it is, we're always talking about, weight loss is multifactorial, and it really is. The human body is complex, it's sophisticated, and we always are looking to get to the deepest foundation, because if you get to the deepest foundation and treat that, it's everything kind of just works better and balances out better, and interventions and treatments just work better. So there's a number of different things that not only cause weight loss resistance, but cause chronic disease, chronic illness. And that is stress, toxins, adverse food reactions, infections, and nutritional imbalances. So we live in a toxic world. We all carry a toxic load, no matter what, no matter if you try to eat healthy, no matter if you're vegan, and you were exposed to it at all times. We have more than 80,000 plus chemicals that are currently used in the US, and believe it or not, the majority of them have not been tested. So we are just consuming this stuff every single day, not really knowing what it's doing to our body. There are different types of toxins that we're exposed to. There's chemicals, so heavy metals, mycotoxins, which is like, you can hear a lot about mold, biological, viral agents, fungal exposures, radiation, metabolic toxins, hyperinsulinemia is a toxin. Uric acid, cytokines, and then there's the psychological toxins, emotional stress, trauma, abuse, and hypersensitivities to our surroundings and our food. Allergies, food, environmental can be toxic to the body. So, and as I go through this, I just really want people to not get overwhelmed with the information and think, oh my gosh, you are presenting so much. How would I ever go about eliminating or reducing toxins in my life? And that's what we're really going to help you with, because we can't be perfect. We just can't. And, this is unfortunately, the life that we live. So just kind of keep that in mind that, we're just here to educate you and get you to make better decisions. So when you're looking at toxins and its effect on the body, everybody is different, right? So first off, you want to know, how often are you being exposed to certain toxins? Do you have regular bowel movements? Do you sweat? Are you eliminating toxins on a regular basis? What is your current nutritional status or your health status? Do you have gut issues? What are your detoxification genetics? Most people don't know their detoxification genetics, but it is available, to get tested to find out how well your body does. And I'm telling you, the more that we're learning is maybe people were born with genetics that supported detoxification, but now the body's just overwhelmed. So things are kind of changing a bit. So at the end of the day, it comes down to how full is your bucket, because our body can only withstand so much. And again, it's coming from all areas, overuse of antibiotics. And this is not even about the antibiotics that you were given at your last sinus infection. This is about antibiotics that are within our food source. So it's amazing how we're finding so many people having gut issues because they're actually eating antibiotics. Processed foods, chronic stress, pathogens, environmental toxins, frequent use of NSAIDs, food sensitivities, again, what I had mentioned. So again, it is all about managing the different toxins that are coming into your body, because if it starts to overfill, then or overflow, you're going to feel that. So a major toxin category, obviously, is our food. We eat genetically modified. Gluten can be toxic to the body. In our food is heavy metals, plastic, microorganisms, sweeteners, additives, preservatives, hormones, antibiotics, aflatoxins, which is mold in food. This is all in our food. This is not just me telling you that, oh, occasionally you're gonna maybe get this. No, it's in our food, and it's in our food majority of the time. Other toxin categories, obviously air, pollutants in the air, heavy metals is huge. In our water, plastics, pharmaceuticals are in our water, drugs are in our water, microorganisms. I'm going to talk more about water, but if there's anything that you can take away from listening to this presentation, it's find a clean source of water that you are drinking, or even that you're taking showers with, because tap water is not going to be that water for you. You really have to take extra steps and extra measures to ensure that you're drinking pure water. And that's one of the most important things that you can do for your body. So some other spectrums of toxicity that we don't always think about. And, I thought about bringing in a lot of my personal story, but then I thought I'll leave that maybe for next time. But I have learned so much over the last, I would say, 5 years, just because I dealt with my own issues. And so now I am looking at everywhere where I could be getting certain toxins, meaning simply the makeup that you use, the toothpaste. I'm getting ahead of myself, but I am going to talk about that. And these are things that you need to really, look at in your own environment. But obviously alcohol is one. Dental, if you have the cavities, you have the silver cavities, that the fillings that they used, you should talk to a specialist almost immediately, because there's mercury in there, and that's one of the most toxic metals to the human brain. I mean, there's so much information out there in the world that I live in, because this is what I study. And it's an area that you really have to take quite seriously. Electromagnetic fields is another one. Food packaging, medications. I mean, what they put in medications, we need to be doing our due diligence. Personal care products. I mean, I can't tell you though, again, I'm going back to there, but I can't tell you how many times I bought what I thought was relatively decent, had 3 products. I look at the ingredients, I see parabens, I see the three worst toxins, and I literally just end up throwing stuff away because it's not worth it to me to put that in my body. Herbicides, pesticides, insecticides, smoke, you name it. So there's a lot. And then there's our environment. Just being outside. If you are living in a city, if you live near an airport, if you travel a lot. I travel so much now, and I know that's affecting my health, and just breathing in those exhaust and radiation and things like that. Farmer power plants are extremely polluting to the air. Even just newer renovations, people that move into new apartment complexes or condos or having carpet put in their house. Some of these materials are extremely toxic, and you can smell it. You can smell this off-gassing and chemicals that are just circulating in the air. Damp basements, I mean, is a huge one, obviously, with mold, which is a pandemic, essentially. Everybody has some level of mold in their body, and it is really foundationally one of the most driving forces to chronic disease, because it hijacks our immune system, and it will live there until you specifically go in and try to get it out. And and the funny thing is that most people, because I ask the question on my intake form, have you been exposed to mold in your home, in your work environment? Most people are like, no, and that's fine. You likely don't know if you were exposed, but think about all the rundown apartments you've lived at. I mean, I had my mold exposure for sure starting in college. I mean, I saw mold. We lived in mold. So then it started from there, and it started to accelerate. And then I lived in numerous homes. Some I knew about it, some I didn't. I found out later because I became obsessive. But keep that in mind, because if you are someone, and I'm going to talk about this, if you're someone who's just can't seem to get better, I shouldn't say that, but this is one of the main pieces to it. A gas or propane stove, secondhand smoke is obvious. Where do you work? I mean, I go to a hair salon and I feel sick after. They breathe in chemicals and toxic materials all day long. If you are a welder, painters, lawn care professionals who are working with pesticides every single day. If you're on an airplane, again, you're exposed to the radiation, cleaning services, cleaning supplies. These are all things that really are affecting people that are within these industries. And believe it or not, we can actually create our own toxins. We can create it by having emotional baggage, being negative all the time, you're always fighting with people. This causes so much inflammation in the body. It causes oxidative stress. It causes so many fluctuations in your hormones, in your adrenals, where eventually things just start to poop out. So please understand that this plays a huge role in your overall health and ultimately your overall ability to not only lose weight, but maintain weight loss. So we know that chronic diseases, that toxicity has been correlated with many chronic diseases and syndromes. It's almost all of them, but you can see here, the list is long. This is probably not conclusive. In fact, I know it's not conclusive, but autoimmunity is, just skyrocketing. Diabetes, brain, oh my gosh, brain health is like such a huge area now because so many people are suffering, including kids. And then you have the syndromes, chronic fatigue, multiple chemical sensitivities. This is a telltale sign that you are toxic loaded. If you are sensitive from strong smells, which is candles, like I said, like the carpets. I dealt with this for so long, and people thought I was crazy, which I would think I was crazy too, but this is your body with an overflown bucket. Premenstrual syndrome, or going into menopause super early, or reaching puberty super early. We all see this. I was, when I grew up, we were all like small people. And I see 14-year-olds that, look like 30-year-old women. It's the food. It's what we are exposed to. Fibromyalgia is a big one too. And so if you have that and you go into a doctor and you're like, oh, okay, let's try, this medication, or let's try to control your pain and what have you. This is toxicity in the body. Okay. This is gut issues, toxicity, and that's where you have to start. Toxins can deposit in all different areas of the body, but these are the main things that if it's in excess, it can contribute to all of these all of these different conditions. So, I mean, we are that person, or we know somebody who is that person. Inflammation and joint pain, low testosterone, unexplained weight gain, blurred vision, memory loss, acid reflux. I mean, the list goes on, and this is the majority of people walking around. So what's the outcome of toxicity if you don't know it and you don't address it? Well, you live the rest of your life on pills, pharmaceuticals, and prescriptions. You lack the quality of life. You really don't have a lot of energy. You have poor mobility and flexibility. And so you resort to sugar and you resort to stimulants so that you can get through the day. I mean, this is the world we live in. And it's sad. So that is why I started this business, and that is why I speak so passionately about it. Any opportunity I can, because we've got to turn this thing around. Because even now, in this day and age, I'm not going to verbalize and say I'm scared, because we're all going to learn so much from what has happened in the last 2 years, and we're going to become better because of it. But we all need to come together and take full ownership and of our health, essentially, because I can only touch so many people. Other people that are out there trying to help can only do so much. It is really about that individual, from within motivation. When you are toxic, the body is hyper-focused on protecting and fighting, not flourishing. Keep that in mind. Your body is fighting all of the time. So people feel it. Some days you feel not great. You're more tired, or you feel like you just traveled, you got back, you're like, you feel something coming on, an illness. And then the next day you're like, okay, yeah, I was able to overcome that. Think of what your body is doing for you at all times. So when you can address some of the more foundational things, get some of the toxins, reduce some in the environment, your body will then begin to flourish, not just fight and protect. So some people will ask, well, I'm relatively healthy, am I really at risk? Everyone is at risk, but here are the more vulnerable population of segments. So people or couples wanting to conceive. I mean, this is such an area that's growing, infertility. I know so many people who are getting treatments for infertility. They can't conceive, they can't have children. And a lot of it has to do with toxins in the body. Individuals with multiple exposures, so they have certain jobs and their hobbies are exposing them significantly. Those who already have a compromised immune system, individuals with a compromised nutrient status, so they're just not healthy. Those who are losing weight or have undergone bariatric surgery, this would be a person at risk, and just older individuals in general, because they've had a lifelong, accumulation over time. So assess your load. There are telltale symptoms, and some of those are just generalized joint and muscle aches and pains. This notorious brain fog or difficulty concentrating, food, environmental, or chemical sensitivities. You are very irritable, you have a headache, or you have migraines, you're lethargic, you have fatigue, weakness, abdominal pain. So kind of all of these that are listed here. If you have those on a regular, ongoing basis, this is not going to just go away on its own. It's time to really start to dig into what could potentially be going on. So I thought this actually made me think as well, just because I feel like, again, we justify not only our behaviors, but we justify our health at all times. And I was one of them, because I can't tell you how many things I suffered from gut issues for years. And I can't tell you how many things I've tried. And I so frustrated until I finally figured out like what the foundation was. Because it was like I was treating the symptom, naturally and all that, but I didn't get to the core. So if you are someone who's not responsive to therapies that are known to be effective, or you see everybody else go on something and they respond really well, but you don't, that's a sign of toxicity in the body. If now all of a sudden you have allergies, infections, and you are diagnosed with one autoimmune disease, or now you have multiple. If you developed autoimmunity later in life, so in your 30s, you no longer can eat certain foods because you just don't do well with it. So, dairy, gluten, but it could be really any type of food. Your occupational or hobby exposure or related, or what did I put here? Occupational or hobby related to exposures prior to illness. So another big piece to really identifying if you could be in an environment that's toxic is paying attention to how you feel in certain areas. So when you're at home, how do you feel? When you're at work, how do you feel? When you're on vacation in a warmer climate, how do you feel? So this is so important because certain environments can be exacerbating what you have going on. So this is just an example. Arizona is making me sick. I always feel better. Or you start working in an environment, say a salon, and now you've been diagnosed with metabolic syndrome and obesity. So it was that bucket that now pushed you over the edge. So how do we measure measurements of toxicity? Very, very easily. And this is how I finally, after so many years, because I didn't do this test. I did every other test. I did not do the one that really can identify all of the different, toxins in the body. So there's many ways to look at this. We can do a blood test, urine, hair, nails, stool. I mean, there are many ways. We can also look at, in certain tests, we can look at oxidative stress. How are your cells keeping up? And I was always shocked because when I was doing all these tests, I had a lot of oxidative stress. And I never really could figure out why, because, I ate healthy. I exercised every single day. I wasn't perfect, but I was light years ahead of, most other people. And so we can measure, how much damage is going on to your cells. We can look at inflammation, and also if you have really low nutrient levels, if you're deficient in certain areas, that's typically toxins are binding and excreting certain nutrients, so you're not even able to keep those in good balance. So subjective assessment. So for us, if we're assessing someone for toxic overload, it's like, okay, what are your exposures outside of the home? What are your exposures inside the home? So you can even just do this for yourself. In your home, again, like I was talking about carpets, do you have musty smell in your house? If you do, please call someone in. Paint, cracking paint, air quality, everyone should have air purifiers, etc. Your hobby or work activities, do you work with varnish or glue, the magnetic, or not the magnetic, but the extensions. I know so many women that used to do that and they no longer can do it because it's so toxic to them, and their bucket was already full and they could no longer take any more. So think about those things. And then, of course, your personal habits, your diet. Are you controlling your stress? Are you doing vaccinations, immunizations? Because sometimes those can add to the toxic load significantly. What about your dental and your oral health? That is another area. Prescription drugs. Are you on more than 5, more than 10? So you can see that it all adds up pretty quickly. We have a really nice, quick symptom assessment that essentially is going to evaluate all the different organ systems. So we can get a really good idea at how significant your body is being affected by certain things. and just based on a rating scale. So if you're out there and you're interested in doing something like this, we would be happy to send it to you, because like I said, it doesn't cost anything, and it really is usually accurate when we see, certain ratings. Some of the obvious more lifestyle factors, looking at your food and drink intake. Again, we talked about stress multiple times. You cannot overlook this enough. Sleep quantity and quality. This is another just foundational piece to good health. You cannot get to optimal health without good sleep. That's when your body repairs, regenerates. Are you getting movement, or do you kind of sit all day? What do your relationships look like? Are you in toxic relationships, or do you have a lot of love surrounding you? Are you in a loving relationship with your spouse or with your kids? This is so important. And then there's just the overall mental, emotional, spiritual health as well. So I would suggest everyone examine their living space, look at the water that they're drinking, look at the furniture. It doesn't hurt to look at what the furniture is made of, if it has any of those hazardous materials. And your air quality, not only in your home, but your surrounding area. Obviously, you're not going to do much about the surrounding area, but you certainly can do what you can in your home. So just in general, these are some obvious things, but again, I'm not expecting anyone to start doing all of these things. This is just to trigger some things that you can start doing today. Limiting processed foods is one of the, well, I shouldn't say easiest, but one of the most practical ways to reduce the load in your body. Limit processed oils, refined sugars, artificial sweeteners, limit fish. Oh my gosh. I had a patient who was doing fish twice a day for years and developed all of these neurological issues. And so mercury, again, is a brain toxin, and it is in very high levels in fish. So if you are a fish eater, make sure you understand the levels in the fish that you're eating. And it is never recommended that you do fish more than 3 times a week. Stop drinking the contaminated water. You would be shocked at what's in our water. Diversify your diet. It's one of the most effective ways to improve your gut health. It's by diversifying your diet and, of course, eating whole foods. So that is just foundational to health. We know that diversity in our gut microbiome, diversity in our diet really helps people turn their health around. Stop eating food out of plastic and cans whenever possible, and limit overcooking, browning, charring. I mean, grilling is great, but the black and the charred is actually toxic. I mean, it's very toxic to our bodies. So, trying to limit that and enjoy those times. Of course, you have to live, but this is more so to think about, okay, am I doing any of these things all the time? Because if you are, then, kind of changing it up a bit. Looking at your food prep stuff, all of these metals and whatever else is in there is going in your food if you don't get new pots and pans or whatever you're cooking with. So you want to choose healthy cookware, and there is a ton online, but I would highly recommend it. It would be worth every penny. You might have to pay a little bit more, but like I said, it will be worth it. You always want to cook slow and low whenever possible, because again, you don't want to overheat. Combination of raw foods and lightly steamed. Some people will say, oh, all vegetables should be cooked. Some people are like, oh, I want to do raw. And, I think a combination is probably best. Cooking with water instead of oil, like even if cooking with oil is okay, but the problem is that people overcook and they cook at high temperatures. So if you're using healthy oil like olive oil, you have destroyed the oil at a high temperature. So now it's rancid. You've destroyed the fatty acids, and now it's inflammatory to the body rather than healing. So be careful of that. And if you, again, have any questions about what oils you should use, you can call us. Leftovers can be a problem for many people because as food sits, there's certain compounds and chemical reactions that happen in the food that a lot of people just don't do well with, like certain amino acids will kind of create different ones. So be mindful of that if you are someone who lives off of leftovers. And again, just examining your pots and pans. And get rid of the plastic whenever possible. It's what people refer to as like the new pandemic, because it's in our body. I mean, we're measuring it, we see it. I mean, BPA is everywhere. Food and beverage containers, the sales receipts, sometimes you see people with gloves on now because they're exposed to it every single day. Plastic water bottles. Children off of that. Baby bottles, cans. So plastic is metabolized through glucuronidation and sulfonation. So our body has to basically try to detoxify, certain toxins. And with plastic, it does have to go through a certain pathway. And oftentimes that pathway is very congested and the plastics just continue to get recirculated. And we do a very specific test and we can see if the glucuronidation pathway has been congested, and we immediately know we have to support the liver because the body is not even detoxing toxins any longer. So another piece to that is just obviously the daily exposure and the mitochondria. Plastic can be a toxin to our mitochondria, which is in every cell of our body, and it is what drives the health of every cell. It's like the furnace. And we have so much mitochondrial damage because of our environment. So plastic is one of the big ones. It has been associated with breast tumor development and definitely obesity and all of these behavioral issues that we're starting to see in young children. Pesticides is huge. You just have to be mindful and careful and wash the heck out of your food. Buy organic whenever possible. I say pay a little now, otherwise you're going to pay a ton later. So you can look for the Dirty Dozen. These are notoriously known for having the pesticides and chemicals. And then Clean 15, these are again the cleaner ones. So if you are going to do organic, these are the ones that I would definitely choose because it adds up. Assess your home. If you have candles going all the time, if you have those plugins, get them out. Like literally you have to get them out. There are so many other ways to create aroma and nice smells in your home. There's essential oils, there's flowers, there's herbs. I mean, there's so many different ways, but the air fresheners and candles are not good. Look at non-toxic laundry detergents, and fabric sheets are known to be one of the most toxic loaded materials in the home. So using something that is a natural option. Our cosmetics, again, do you have mold? Do you see mold in your house? Do you smell mold? Hand soap, sanitizers, cleaning supplies, and of course I put this in there that we really need to think twice about as well. Okay, so how are toxins stored and eliminated? Toxins, if the body does not eliminate them, they are stored in fatty tissue of the brain, nerves, glands, and visceral adipose. So some, like I said, some are eliminated, but depending on your load, you're going to end up storing this. So most toxins have to go to the liver for conversion, because toxins are basically they're fat soluble. And so in order for the body to excrete it, it has to go to the liver, it converts it to water, and then you can get rid of it. But some toxins just in general are not able to be conjugated or converted into that water soluble. So they stay in the body. And so when they stay in the body, they find their way into different fat stores. And that's why people have a problem losing weight. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I just wanted to point out a couple studies that, as I was doing just a little research, it's just, there's so much out there if you really look. And this is a study that looked at adipose tissue as a site for toxin accumulation. So this particular one, POP, stands for persistent organic pollutants. So they found numerous toxicants that have been detected in adipose tissue in various populations. In humans, they also found certain contaminants and toxins in breast milk of humans. Many organic compounds not only resist environmental degradation, but they also bypass the liver biotransformation enzymes. So like I said before, they can't get conjugated, so they go right into fat tissue. And so this highly soluble, these pollutants can disseminate through the food chain by collecting in body fat, and they actually begin to increase in concentration as they move, from organism to organism. So we're just creating this environment of toxin, accumulation. So again, there are many studies. This is another one that really honed in on toxins and metabolic disease. I mean, there's epidemiological studies that show the association between certain pollutant concentrations and metabolic diseases. And again, I'm not going to go into details about this, but essentially, at the end here, I just put, given the role of the adipose tissue in regulation of body weight, because it plays a huge role, the POP, or the pollutants mediated disruption, can contribute to the development of obesity and related metabolic diseases. So I think most people understand this, but I really just wanted to point out that there's really a lot of research to back that up. I saw this come through my path and I thought it was worth adding. So some of the worst, what we call obesogens. So these are just known to be stored in our fat and cause weight loss resistance. So parabens, triclosan, phthalates, and bisphenol A, so BPA. I don't even know if I said this one right. I see that one a lot in heavily processed items, but these are the key ones that we want to be looking for. All right, let's talk a little bit about quick weight loss, because I'm going to talk about some pretty important topics here and pieces to detoxification and weight loss. So first I want to talk about fasting. Can fasting make you more toxic? And some people may be thinking, wait, what do you mean? I thought it's supposed to help, etc. Whereas some people understand kind of where I'm going with this. But essentially, when you fast, so loss of body fat through caloric restriction will mobilize your fat, right? It releases it. It allows those fats to come into circulation. So what do you think comes with it? All of the toxins come out in circulation when you do quick weight loss. We are talking about this all the time. And this is why people will say, oh, the keto flu, or, oh, I feel so sick and so lightheaded. It's because I'm not eating enough calories. No, it's because you're toxic loaded and your toxins are coming into circulation. So keep that in mind when you're doing quick weight loss, whether it's fasting, whether it's one of our programs, even though we develop ours accordingly, which I'll talk a little bit about. This happens all the time, and it's happening more so. I just had a case just the other day, and it was a bad detox for sure. So just putting another example of, what we see and read out there. I mean, because what you read and see out there sounds great. It sounds unbelievable. So you just want to do it. You want to buy it. And this is just an example. A 60-year-old female, was complaining of severe headaches, significant swelling, edema in her lower legs, fatigue. She was pre-diabetic, obese, generalized joint pain, and she was going to do a detox. So the detox involved stringent fasting together with juices at periodic levels. And within 2 days, she detoxed so hard that she number one, couldn't get out of bed, and she couldn't continue. And so you can see again that what the toxic load can do when you push it out of the fat cells. So this particular person could not continue. When we are talking to people, we know they're at high risk for detoxification. We know we have to support the detox pathways, or they have to kind of do something leading up to a program. Just a word about ketogenic, because everyone has been on it. Please understand that the ketogenic diet was not made for everybody, and actually can be quite detrimental in many different ways. Now, I'm not saying it can't be helpful for some things. It absolutely can for a short period of time. But what we know now is that the gut is the foundation to the body. The gut is an ecosystem of organisms. And if you are eating a diet that is high in inflammatory fats, some will say, well, I eat healthy fats, but they're not eating all healthy fats. It's still an excess of fat. And you're basically eliminating fruits, vegetables, and grains that feed the healthy bacteria. You're basically starving the healthy bacteria in your gut. So that in itself, going through a ketogenic diet, that in itself might result in long-term consequences, because now you've just changed that environment. Most of the time, if there's not something more serious going on, you can recoup that and change and get that to come back. But this is the research that is now, coming out. I mean, it's so common sense if you think about it. I never, ever really was a fan of the ketogenic, except for like very specific cases. But so this particular study looked at the ketogenic, and what they found was like I said, a decrease in intestinal diversity, changes in the membrane integrity. So basically opening up those cellular walls. So now things are getting into the gut and into the system that should not be there. And now your immune system is involved, and now you have systemic inflammation. So again, why? Because low fruits and vegetables and low fiber, no carbs. So what do you do with the food and nutrients if your patient has irregular elimination of toxins? Because if you're doing any type of quick weight loss, or you're doing any type of cleanse, you better be eliminating. And if you're not, stop doing what you're doing. So if the program allows, get adequate fiber, it's crucial. Adequate water, eat fermented foods if you do well with that. Whole foods whenever possible. Probiotics, I didn't add it in here, but prebiotics are so crucial. And not to complicate things, but supplementation is a monster, because even I get overwhelmed at times, and I keep trying all different things, but supplementation is so individualistic, and depending on what your goal is and what you're trying to treat, it probably would make some sense to do some testing and find out what you really need. And a genetic test can tell you so many different things, from detoxification, are you weight loss resistant, how do you do with certain foods? I mean, it can tell you so much, and you only have to do it once because it's a genetic test. It can tell you how, I think I just said that, how you detoxify, what nutrients your body needs because of genetics, and what SNPs or mutations do you have? So how do we have to overcome a compromised genetic profile per se? Lifestyle factors, again, can't say it enough, sweat. Try to find a way to sweat, get good sleep. If you're not sleeping, make this a focus. If you're stressed out all the time in a chronically stressed state, make this a focus and look at your relationships. Sleep, like I mentioned, it's when you rejuvenate, it's when your cells repair, it's when your hormones rebalance. It is literally, again, I use the word a lot, foundational. You must work with your circadian rhythm. Getting good sleep is what your body will adapt to. Toxicity of the blue light at night, taking steps to avoid that. There are so many things now where we can protect ourselves from that blue light. And melatonin can help a lot of people. We have a lot of different products for sleep. And carbohydrate cravings will just significantly ramp up, and sugar, with lack of sleep, because your body is going to look for that energy and those cravings to get through the day, essentially. So stress, physiological stressors, environmental stressors, metabolic stressors, financial and relationship. The body does not recognize the difference in these stressors. They all affect the body the same. So I explain to people, because I was a big athlete. I was training, some days 4 to 5 hours. That was a huge stressor on my body, even though some would perceive that to be, oh, okay, well, you're working out. It's good for you, right? But that can really knock a lot of people out if they're not, if they're not factoring that in as a stress on their body. Your psychology is huge. Psychology is your biology. People that think negative, we mentioned this earlier, have, they're pessimistic. Everything is, a problem. That plays a huge, huge role in how the health of your body and how you can deal with certain toxins in the environment and your detoxification. And again, toxic relationships. There's a lot of studies on this. People that are happier live longer. People that are in isolation, they have more chronic diseases. So it is not something we just are finding about now. This is always, they have so much research on it. So really trying to look at your mental health as part of the whole picture is very important. Spirituality will take you to the next level. Having a purpose, finding those connections. Individuals with these practices really can change their life. Forgiveness, prayer, meditation, whatever works for you. It's finding something simple that you can do consistently. So what can a detox do for you? You can get significant improvements in your illnesses from a lot of different detoxes, but essentially it's going to improve your brain fog, reduce pain. It could heal your gut. It's going to allow you to identify inflammatory foods, because usually on a cleanse, you're removing everything. And then all of a sudden, first time you eat it, you feel it. It will reduce frequent illness and infections, increase your energy, clear up your skin, regulate your emotions, reduce inflammation, and help you recover from illness. So lots and lots of, obviously, lots of benefits to a detox. I mean, people should be doing this on a regular basis. So this is just a slide that shows you the liver, our liver that does so much. And I'm going to just first help you understand, what it does, but it plays such a huge role in weight loss indirectly, just because of the detox load and metabolism and such. So the liver, the main things is it removes toxins. It regulates our blood sugar, produces bile, helps fight infection, regulates the fluid in our body, metabolizes fats, and removes excess cholesterol, and also makes cholesterol. So it plays many different roles. Sorry about this, it's a little blurry. These are symptoms of liver toxicity. So is your liver overworked? Is it sluggish? Acne, allergies, anemia, autoimmune disorders, chemical sensitivities, eczema, fatigue, foul breath, gallstones, gas, bloating, headaches, etc. So do you need to cleanse the liver? All right, so how does this all kind of come back to weight loss and the programs that we create really factoring in the detox component? So whenever you go on a quick weight loss program, you are mobilizing fats. Okay, so mobilizing fats into circulation, now your body is more toxic because it's having to deal with all of these toxins going into circulation. So if you don't know how to manage that, then basically what will happen is your body is going to perceive that as a need to create more fat to hold on to all these toxins. So that's why people tend to gain that weight back right away, because that's just your body trying to protect itself. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're losing with weight loss. Cellular cleansing. So essentially, once you can get to a point where you can actually mobilize those toxins so they come into circulation and you can excrete them, this is where your health moves to a new level. Now you're able to manage your toxins, you're able to build lean muscle, and all of the other imbalances in the body will begin to rebalance itself. So a lot of it really does have to do with the load in our body. When the liver cannot keep up, fat cells become the storage for the toxins. I said that already. You guys all know that by now. When toxins are in the fat, there's another component. So the fat cell becomes inflamed. Okay, now it's an inflammatory fat cell. And what happens next is the body traps the fat stores to protect itself. So once it becomes inflammatory, now lowering calories is not going to release that to be used. Only very specific programs will get you to access and burn those inflammatory fats. Otherwise, they are just going to stay there. And that is your body think it's doing you a service, and you get super frustrated because no matter what you do, you lose a little bit of weight and then it stops. Well, this is probably what's going on. So weight loss resistance is usually just an accumulation of the inflamed cells, because we have fat cells that are actually very beneficial to us. But then we get the inflamed fat that literally won't budge. And visceral fat is very different than what we refer to as subcutaneous fat. So subcutaneous is the pinchable outer layer under the skin. The visceral is deep within the vital organs and just causing a cascade of these inflammatory fat cells. So with all of that, are you ready for a metabolic reset? So I want to talk about our signature weight loss programs, and we are running our metabolic reset that we do 3 times a year. And so the highlights of our programs are numerous, but first, they can overcome any genetic predisposition. So what we have seen is some people have genetic tests and they're like, you will, have weight loss. You are one that has weight loss resistance. And our programs, they can overcome any type of set point that they've had their whole life. So we are obviously, excited about that. We target those resistant fat stores. So the waist in the neck, the knees. Those are typically like the abnormal fat. Our programs reset your metabolism and reset your weight. They maintain muscle mass in a calorie-deprived state. They reset your hunger signals, your hormones, and support detoxification. As you can see here, we have 3 different programs. One is HCA Lean, and there are the highlights here. We have HCG Drops, and then we have our HC2. These are all 30-day programs. They are all just a little bit different, which we will talk to you in more detail about if you're trying to decide which one is best for you. But what I will say is that, actually, I probably do talk a little bit about this, but HC2 really is the program where we give more enhanced detoxification or liver support. HCG, we now do sublingual drops. The FDA banned the injections, so they are no longer available. I do a whole presentation on that, but let's just say it was for no other reason other than they want us to push pharmaceuticals. So they no longer allow us to access it. And HCG, really, we used it for 7 years, had thousands and thousands and thousands of patients do so incredibly well. And it really, so when I was studying it, my main goal was like, why does this work so well? And so over time, I started to understand what was going on in the body. So cool thing is now we have 3 programs that do essentially the same thing. So they're quick weight loss, extremely safe and effective. And so again, the injections are no longer available, but the drops we now offer. So an ideal candidate would be someone who did HCG in the past and had a lot of success. They prefer drops over supplements. So for whatever reason, because these are sublingual. And you must be able to stick to a structured plan for all of our programs. If you have gut issues due to not due to absorption, but if you have gut issues, then drops would be ideal, because if you're doing supplements, you may not be absorbing everything that you need, and the drops will bypass the digestive tract. HCA Lean, you can see the 3 products that are included in this program. So the main focus is targeting and mobilizing fat, supporting appetite, and creating cellular energy. So an ideal candidate would be someone who wants to continue to exercise at a moderate or higher rate, because our other programs, we kind of keep the exercise level low just during the program. You cannot have an allergy to shellfish, because there is a component of shellfish in one of the ingredients. You would be an ideal candidate if you lacked a lot of energy, because there's a lot of vitamin support. And if you are one that has, a lot of stress, adrenal fatigue, and if you know that you do not have a methylation condition, so most people don't know this, but methylation condition is becoming very, very common these days. And so some of the vitamins in this particular program are not methylated. So some people have, they don't feel great when taking a certain product. But that's overall, we haven't seen really, we've had like 1 or 2 people that had a reaction. For the most part, they're obviously very high quality supplements. HC2, those are the 3 products. So the first product is our detox fuel. So this is really going to support phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification, help removal of the toxins, and cleanse the liver so that your metabolism can work optimally. So HC2 is part of the HC2 program. And this is our product that really is going to mimic what HCG always did. And that's really targeting that abnormal fat and transporting that inflammatory fat to a place where the body can start to burn it. And it also has appetite suppressing effects. And then we also have mini lights as part of this kit, this program, and Mini Lights is replacing electrolytes, which is very important, and also providing absorbable minerals in very balanced ratios so that the body gets optimal absorption. So this kit has been very effective. They all have been very effective, and I'll kind of break down what people can expect. But as an overview, this is a 30-day online program. We have a group of people that all do this at once. So they're, we have a very organized way of executing this. So during this program, you do have the option to purchase a body composition home scale. And this really integrates with our app so we can see, everything as you go through it. So we're really encouraging people to do that. Throughout the program, you're going to get daily emails. You're going to have access to educational videos, meal plans, recipes, etc. And then we'll have scheduled 2 group calls during the program. You'll be tracking your food, tracking your weight. Average weight loss is 15 to 25 pounds. And the goal obviously is the majority of that is fat, because that's what we know our programs do. And then after the program, you have the option to do our 30-day post-program maintenance plan. So that's kind of the highlight there. And so what's included is 1 week of preparation meal plans. So we're kind of getting you ready for the structured meal part. And, again, there's good reason why that's important, especially if you've been kind of eating a very high sugar, high carb, high processed food diet. It's going to be important to prepare. You're going to get 30 days of weight loss products, 30 days of recipes, meal plans, etc. We'll set you up on our app so you get those daily emails. Like I said, you'll get the live support sessions and the 30-day maintenance. So if you are interested in doing our metabolic reset, then you can enroll now or before April 11th, because we are scheduling pickups between April 11th and April 18th. These supplements and the structured diet will start on the 18th. There is no flexibility for that. So everyone starts on the same day. And we basically support and help you through the rest. So that is it. That wraps up this pretty long presentation. There are going to be details below where you can learn more and sign up. So thank you very much.